This is something I never usually show in my videos. This is my home. This is my kitchen. You will be also formulating in yours. You probably have some stuff on the counters. So in order to formulate anything safely, you need to get rid of all of this stuff, at least in the exact work area that you plan on working in, which for me is from here on out. And so I will be taking out all of these items, the food items, and anything that I leave behind will get wiped down, ideally with a Clorox wipe. Since we are just making products for ourselves today, it is okay to use a working kitchen. I don't want to scare anybody away by thinking that you have to have a lab environment to work in. These are homemade products just for us. It's enough just to clean your surfaces and work in your own kitchen. Now, once you're done with this and you have your work zone free, we're going to set this up as follows. You're gonna put your ingredients over here. You're gonna have your active work zone in the middle. And then on this side, once you use an ingredient, you put it over there, and then you'll end up with some trash, I'll show you. And that should go in a clean pile over here at the very end. So it's like an assembly line. That's the best way to do this. Here is my full setup, and I will go over this with you right now. Starting with the formulation sheet. We have that ready to go. Everything is organized, and we have a full procedure plan. And now let's go over the ingredients that we have. So the cetyl alcohol looks like that. It's in like little pellets. And that's the one I had to order from Formulator Sample Shop. Everything else is off Amazon. We have our organic castor oil, cocoa butter, candelilla wax. That's in my own container right now though. Then we have organic virgin coconut oil, cold pressed, unrefined. That is always, always important to remember when you choose oils. Then we have jojoba oil, apricot oil, and lastly, vitamin E oil. These are the ingredients that these lip balms are made out of. Second, we have our tools. So I prepare my tools based on the ingredients. So I'm looking at my ingredients. The vitamin E oil comes with a built-in pipette, which is like basically one of these, but it's already in the bottle. And then the apricot oil doesn't have one, the jojoba oil doesn't have one, the castor oil doesn't have one. So I have prepared 3 pipettes, and then I'm gonna need a spoon for the coconut oil, a spoon for the candelilla wax, and a spoon for the cetyl alcohol. The cocoa butter is hard enough that I'm actually gonna need a knife. So I have a plate and a knife prepared for that. In addition to that, I should have mentioned this as the first thing, but you need gloves. So put some gloves on before you start working. And then we need the beaker. And because we're preparing 50 grams of this product, I have chosen this beaker because I just happen to know that it's big enough to hold the volume that we'll be making. So I would recommend getting an 80 milliliter volume beaker. The other couple things that I have here are the scale. So that is a scale with the 100th percentile accuracy. I also have a thermal gun, but that's kind of optional, I think. again, these are just for home use, so we don't need to be so scientific over here. Next, I have the lip balm tubes here ready to go. You always want to have your containers ready. And then this is just some random little pan that I own that I like to use for the water bath. So in a minute here, we're gonna be putting a little bit of water in there, and after we measure all the ingredients in this goes in the water bath. So whatever pan you use is fine. You just need to use just a little bit of water, approximately half of the height of the volume that's in the beaker is a good amount. Obviously considering the size of the pan that you own as well. But I like this pan because it heats up really quick. So now then, if you look at my setup here, I have my formula, I have my ingredients, the unused ones, I have my tools, I have my working zone, I have my finished lip balms waiting over there for a fill, and then this is the used ingredient area and the dirty tool zone. Let's get to work. So we're gonna start by taking our beaker, putting it on the scale, and then getting our first ingredient out. Now, first ingredient we'll be using is the cetyl alcohol. We're gonna get our spoon. Now, so what happens if you pour too much? First of all, you have to be careful as you move on to second, third, and so on in the ingredients. Right now, I have a clean beaker, and it's the only ingredient in the beaker. So I'm taking 1, 2 out. After, now that I'm done with the cetyl alcohol, I set it over here on the side. And we're moving on to castor oil. 2.5 grams castor oil. And it is not unusual for me to look back and check about 3 times that I have the right oil and I'm going for the right amount. In case these percent numbers ever mess with you too much, I would just cover them up with a pen or something so that you don't see them. Sometimes I like to cover them for clarity. So I've been putting some of the coconut butter in there already. It's hard to do this with a cell phone in hand. Yes, I film with my phone. Let's see if this goes over. Ooh, ever so little. Remember again what I said about we need 18. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Ooh, okay, close enough, guys, close enough. Whatever I just broke off out of there with my hands, I'm not gonna put back into the bag. That just goes in the trash pile. Next, we're gonna measure the candelilla wax. We're going to need 8.5 grams of candelilla wax. So we're going to use a spoon. We got our scale zeroed out, 8.5 grams. Looks like it's gonna be a couple of spoonfuls. Then it is the coconut oil's turn. Lastly, we're going to add the jojoba oil and the apricot oil in these amounts. Both are at 3%, so that's 1.5 grams. Right now we have everything that we need for phase A in this beaker. So it's time to melt it all together. So the thing about the melting that I want to mention is we are not attempting to heat the oils. The oils are not meaning to boil or get hot or anything like that. Obviously they will get hot. The beaker definitely gets hot, but the point is to get all the oils, waxes and butter to melt together into one homogeneous liquid, okay? So now we're gonna take our little water bath pan, I'm gonna put a little bit of water in it. So in this case, I would do maybe 1 inch, and then I'm gonna put it in there. Always water first. Put this on the stove, water, then that. Water can never get inside your beaker, okay? So this just gets gently lowered into the water bath. Then I did not mention earlier, but you guys need a stir stick, okay? This is light enough. These coffee stir sticks are light enough, lighter than any spoon that you might have, to sit in the beaker while it's heating, because once it starts to boil, this whole beaker starts to kind of shake a little bit. If you have a heavy object sticking out of here, it might tip your beaker over, and guess what happens then? Then you have water in your beaker. If you ever do get water in your beaker, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to start over because your product is ruined. There's no way that you could salvage it at that point. So on your stove, medium heat, put the water bath there. It does not need to be warm before you put the beaker in. In fact, I would put it in when the water is still cold, so it all gets to get warm together. And now we just wait. Every now and then you want to come here and start stirring, but right now I wouldn't even touch it. Just let it be for a while. As you can see now, our station looks a little bit different while we wait for the oils to melt together. We only have the vitamin E oil here left to use. I like to bring that a little closer so I don't forget to add it, which has happened. Now that we've used all of our tools, I like to take that and reuse it over here. Once the beaker comes out of the water bath, the bottom of the beaker is going to be wet. So to keep the counters dry, I like to lower it onto the paper towel. And we have our formula, we can bring that closer to, and the ingredients that we've already used. You could just store these away at this point. We're not going to need those anymore. And another thing that you could line up while this is melting is your lip balm tubes. So with these disc tubes, you're going to want to check a couple things before you line them up. There's a disc on the bottom, and you want to make sure that it's flat. It's all the way to the bottom and it's straight and flat on the bottom. And then you can go ahead and line up your lip balm tube so when the mixture is ready to pour, you're ready to go. It's now been about 5 minutes and you can see that the oils are melted, the butter is almost melted, and the wax flakes are yet to be done. So the wax is the hardest. It also takes the longest time to melt, but it will become liquid over time. It's time, guys. Look at this. Be very careful, by the way, when you pull this out. It's hot. You need to have something protecting your hands. It is ready to go. Let's put it on the counter so we can see.